Hello everyone, this is Joanna the Medium. Thank you so much for coming back. These are going to be your messages for the month of November 2018. I want to give you a couple of things before we move on to the messages. First and foremost, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to do this. My intention is always to give you helpful information that will allow you to know yourself deeply. So whether it is something to think about or something that will allow you to do things differently, or I give you a suggestion or idea, Spirit is here to help you to understand yourself better so that you can have freedom and more choices. Whatever signs you're listening to, whichever is your sign, sometimes you'll be guided to see a sign that doesn't belong to you, and you will find that the information there also applies to you. The way I work with my team is I try to bring information that is of most relevance to everyone in all life, including practical knowledge and practical advice. What I'm trying to say here is listen to your other signs as well as signs you normally wouldn't listen to but you are drawn to. Also, this month, for some reason, I recorded two messages for Gemini. I don't know how I did it. Never have done it before in the last 2.5, 3 years. And I've done them on the same day. It's almost as if I had amnesia. So you will notice that there is a Gemini reading 1 and Gemini message 2, video 1 and video 2. Listen to both. For some of you, both will apply. For some of you, one will apply over the other. I was asked, what do I do with this now? And the suggestion was given to me that I release both of them. So if you're a Gemini, consider this as a bonus month for you and see which one applies to you, perhaps both. And of course, for any messages that you are looking for, or any inside information on your personal life, these messages are general. You're welcome to connect with me. That information is down below for you. More than anything, I thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing and for sharing. I always am so grateful to be able to do this for you, and it is what brings me a great joy. So thank you so much. If you would like to comment how these messages apply to you, I would love to read them. I wish you best of luck. Take care of yourself and see you soon. Let's move on. Hello, beautiful Geminis. These are going to be your messages for the month of November 2018. Yes, November 2018. Sorry, I got sidetracked for a moment. Let me start off by saying, by giving you some information I'm tuning into. First and foremost, for many of you, I feel like I have been dealing with something that doesn't seem to have an end to it. In other words, there's something that I am looking at and I'm reflecting and I'm asking myself, when am I going to have it? When is it going to be here? When blah, 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 blah. There seems to be, I'm just going to close my email. There seems to be a timing connected to this in terms of acquiring something really important. But then I'm seeing the stop sign that tells me you need to focus now instead versus putting so much effort into the future. And this is going to be a message for you that will mean something. I feel this is for those of you who are trying to escape something in your life, a sort of a situation perhaps, or a set of circumstances, and you can't see perhaps your way out of it. The reason why you are being led to this information is because it is important for you to, what's the word I want to use, please? It's important for you to have a peace of mind that everything that you are going through, despite the difficulties, everything is going to be fine. Now, for those of you who seem to be struggling with something, hearing that may kind of not mean anything to you. But I'm being asked to say this because I feel many of you have been dealing with substantial change. And some of that change you have been resisting. And for some of you for really good reasons. Perhaps you've lost something you don't have anymore and you're trying to get it back. Whatever the case may be for you, the problem here is, no problem, but the challenge here is, if what you have had in the past has served its purpose already in terms of your growth, then getting back to that is not gonna make sense to you. In other words, you can never get back to what you once had or who you once were, because that's in the past. What you can do is you can create a brand new situation that either reflects what you have or reflects something even better. So it feels like for most of you, you are in transitions. And I do actually have the cards supporting that for most of you. The number 11 is being shown to me, which, okay, several things. Judgment to me signifies a positive outcome to a situation that either has some of you legal ramifications, or there is or some difficulty that you've been dealing with, and there is an end to a struggle. So there seems to be a positive end to something for some of you. The word "the world" is being shown to me, and I'm actually looking at the world. To me signifies that many of you have arrived at the station where you need to get off and you need to take a different train. And what this symbolizes to me in a beautiful way is it is now time for you to shift going forward, or change your paths, or change where you were going. In other words, it's time for you to do something different. The analogy that's being given to me is, let's say you want to visit the world, but you always travel in the same way. If you travel always in the same way and you don't deviate from that norm, then life is going to become very repetitive, right? So if you want something different in your life, you need to be able to entertain the idea that something outside of what you have currently been used to is in fact possible for you. And that represents change, and change for most of us can be very scary, particularly for those of us who do not have a very strong belief system or a security system within ourselves. So the number 11 signifies balance as well. It is, I want to say, reuniting yourself with yourself. So the transitions that you have been going through is for the purpose of reunification. In other words, on some level, at some point, you have felt separate from some aspects of you, and through this transformation that you are going through, you will begin to realize those forgotten aspects about you. And I hear the word wealth. So for some of you, this is about for all of you, this is going to be about inner wealth. But for some of you, this is going to be about physical wealth. And not only that, if we have challenges with inner wealth, we will have difficulty attracting physical wealth. So that may be, that will be a message for some of you. Point is, for those of you who have been struggling, particularly in a financial matter, I feel over the next 4 to 6 months, and I do realize this is for November only, but 4 to 6 months, many of you will see significant or substantial changes happening in your world in a positive way. So another way to say this, you need to remain being patient while the work behind the scenes is being done for you by spirit, universe, energies, whatever you want to call it. So the card that represents the overall information is, show me something about Geminis that I really want them to know. Well, you have the card of Metamorphosis. And Metamorphosis is essentially death and rebirth. So if it feels like you have been dragged through mud, in fact, you may have been in a symbolic way. What this card represents is that many of you are experiencing a massive shift of consciousness. And what I mean by this is, and I'm getting triggered in my throat, so this is going to affect many of you very differently, but it will affect your voice. And a lot of it is about speaking your voice clearly. In order to do that, you first have to know who you are. And many of you have been struggling with that idea of who you are. So no time like the present to dismantle your current belief system as you go through metamorphosis so that you can create a new one. And that's a lot of analogies, yes, but for a lot of you will understand this, that essentially what you are going through is the ripping away of the old ways in order to expose the you underneath. To say it more succinctly, most of you who resonate with this are going through a fundamental inner change where you begin to see things differently, and as a result you eventually shift and change to someone new, someone different. However, the metamorphosis process is not a very comfortable one, because it is asking you to let go of some ego-based things. And when I say ego, I don't mean let go of the ego completely, because you need it. But when we come into problems is that when ego needs us to serve it. In other words, the ego is in charge, and ego often is based in safety. And well, it's based in safety and security. So the ego does things in order to feel safe and secure, which, the ego has its moments, because the ego also is formed by our pain. Bottom line is, a lot of painful stuff will come up to the surface. So I said, okay, show me what is their responsibility. What is it that I can give them for the month of November? And they go, okay, I'm going to run with it. What is it that they need to do for themselves? The card is actually new consciousness. So this is another Metamorphosis, new consciousness, basically the same thing. 5 and 4 is the number 9. So there are changes to your foundations, whether it is work-related, whether it is relationship-related, whether it is the very foundation within you, inside of you, you are undergoing changes. And basically this means that your insides are being ripped apart, metaphorically speaking. And the reason for it is that your structure has limits in it. And when you have limits in structures, then whatever you're trying to accomplish will limit you. In other words, if you're not getting what you want, you have to change your shift your thinking and belief system. So this is your responsibility. In the month of November, this is what you need to pay attention to. What are some of the things that are bubbling up from inside of me in order for me to see? Generally speaking, these things create confusion. Okay, so if you have any changes around work, if you have any changes around relationships, if you have any internal changes that tell you, oh my God, there's something going on, what's going on? Well, if you have that feeling that is yearning you or urging you to pay attention, you need to pay attention. And they're asking me to say what it is. It's a feeling. It's either a situation that's staring you in the face and you are having challenges with, or you have a nagging feeling that something needs to change because the way things are, they're no longer working for you. Now, what does this all mean? Progressive Desires is a message that came up which says, for the number one I want to say about this is confusion is a lack of not having a map to where we're going. That's why we're confused. With that comes a lot of fears that are related to trust. If we are confused and if we have no control, we seem to have no control over things, it makes the ego very frightened. When that happens, it's a good opportunity to recognize what is it that the ego is trying to rid itself of, whether it's trying to rid itself of a feeling, or whether your ego is trying to acquire something in order to fulfill some kind of a hole inside of you. And when I say hole, there's obviously no holes, right? So this is about you looking at what you hang on to. It is also about not making any fast movements and also not stagnating. So it's a little bit awkward, this message, because it says you're going through changes and you're going through a transformation. You may have the need to jump through it very quickly because it's bloody uncomfortable. Some of you are maybe choosing to resist. Neither resisting nor jumping forward too quickly is going to benefit you. So you have to find some middle ground so that you're not resisting the change, but you're also not catapulting forward too prematurely in order to get yourself out of feeling uncomfortable. And the reason for it being is this: as you change and transform, as you go through your metamorphosis, yes, and you begin to gain new consciousness, your idea of, let's say, abundance may change. Your idea of what you want for yourself for the future might change, and that may change quite quickly. You may 6 months from now realize that the person you once were, you are no longer, and your whole world changes as a result. So it's an interesting message for me to interpret, because I want to say, don't stagnate, don't resist, but at the same time, don't charge forward too quickly in order to escape whatever discomfort you're going through. The card that I'm looking at is Ride the Wave, and basically the message of this card is you got to ride it out. Dolphins to me are very symbolic of healing and also very high frequency. Couple of messages that are coming with this. You may have a connection to dolphin. If you don't, look up what the symbolic meaning of dolphin is as an animal totem, and I believe that will give you more information on what that means for you. So there's a hidden message here in my message. The other aspect of whale is higher consciousness, and this may be symbolic to you that you are on a upswing, so to speak, when it comes to shifting and changing. And water to me is always emotions. So when I say ride the wave, I want to say let the healing take place. And in order for that to happen, you got to allow it to happen, which means if you are feeling stuck and you're doing the best you can, but you're not moving forward, you've got to just go through this discomfort of not knowing what's going to be after this ends, and just do the best you can. The world in reverse tells me that there is a little bit of reluctance to accept what has come to an end. This could be a job, this could be a relationship, this could be something you have invested in that is no longer, and you're refusing to let that go. It also to me symbolizes an incomplete lesson. So what that means to me is that whatever you are going through is to balance out the energies, because there is something tremendous that you are needing to learn from this. Now, when I say the word learn, it kind of sounds like it's implying that you're not aware. That's not what I'm saying at all. That's not what they're saying at all. But what they are saying is that for those of the stronger the struggle, the stronger the indication that there is something profound to be gained from this experience. So if you can look at your situation in those terms, I believe it will help you alleviate some of the anxiety, not all of it, but some of it. Trust yourself more deeply. This is another message that I'm seeing, and for those of you who are to hear this, is your level of grounding is dependent on what you think of yourself in terms of value. So again, there is a value quality here. If you are struggling with a sense of who you are, which is your value system, your belief system about you, you will always come up on the short end of the scale in terms of receiving. In other words, you'll be trying very, very hard. Despite your best effort, you seem to come up empty. There's a lesson in that, and that is one of resilience, and it's to do with failure and accomplishment, interestingly enough. And whatever we're gaining from going through perceived failures and how it shapes us in positive ways. So I feel like many of you are getting a university degree in terms of spirituality. You're going through some stuff. Then I said, okay, show me one more message. What do they need to know? Just one more card. You got the devil. How appropriately. So the devil to me is aspects that bind us, whether it is alcohol, whether it is drugs, whether it is an addiction to thinking a certain way, an addiction to feeling a certain way, an addiction to, you could be addicted to relationships that aren't working for you. Addiction's not just the regular ones, but the deeply rooted things that we attached ourselves to. What you're going through, and this is not in the month of November. This is just a message that will help you in the month of November. But I feel many of you have been going through this transition for quite some time. There will be very, very, very few of you to who this will make sense down the road. But most of you who will hear this, you're dealing with this already. Mental transformation message is, well, just that. Your mental faculty is undergoing some restructuring. And again, when we transform, when we go through the death and rebirth, it is usually not a very comfortable time. And primarily because old stuff surfaces, and many times we cannot escape looking at it. And these are deeply, deeply rooted things. But what happens is we get a chance to observe what those things are so that we can no longer be afraid of them. So mental transformation is very appropriate. 9 to me is number of letting go. 4 again is a number of foundations. So you are needing to let go of some things that are fundamental as value about you. What beliefs do you have about you? What do you believe your value is? What do you deserve? What do you think of the world? I mean, there's countless questions I could ask, but you are undergoing reconstruction, literally. 9 and 4 is 13. Again, 1 new beginnings, 3 is growth. So this is all happening because you are ready to start new, and shortly after you're going to start expanding again. What do I mean by that? Expanding to me is giving birth to new ideas, not just ideas, birthing things into your physical world. Another way of saying is this. In order for you to attract the abundance that you seek, whether it is abundance in terms of relationship, whether it is abundance in terms of physical manifestation, money, cars, whatever, whether it's abundance in health and stability, whatever abundance means to you, if you are wanting to attract more of that to you and you still don't have it despite your best efforts, it is an indication that something inside of you is telling you that what you're searching for you can't have. Not that you can't have it, that you believe you can't have for whatever reason. Learn linear thinking. What is linear thinking? To me, linear thinking is seeing things in a very certain way, and perhaps being too idealistic, perhaps seeing things in a certain way because that is what spells safety and security for you, or whatever other words that you want to use. Point is that if we are stuck in our certain way of thinking, then our thinking can become very rigid. When thinking becomes very rigid, we become very stagnant at creating. Why? Because creation depends on us and our ability to imagine. If we are very rigid in our thinking, we will spend less time imagining, because imagining is not safe. Seeing things a certain way, it's safe. Many of you will understand exactly what I'm saying. It's a bit of a psychological blur in there, but I believe you will understand what I'm saying. The other message that I'm hearing is this: for most of you, this is all about feeling at home inside. when you finally come to the place of inner knowing that you are greatness, despite of what you look like, who you are, what you do, what your status is, what you drive, how much money you make, despite all of those things, when you finally arrive at the point internally that you are at peace with yourself as you are already, then your whole world is going to open up. And there's a need for you to recognize that. This is a very, very important lesson for many of you. And I feel like you've been doubting yourself for a long time. Some of you have buried this quite deeply. I want to pick one card. And this is the animal deck, spirit animal deck. Okay. Oh my God. This is the card that I was actually looking at me. So you got the wolf. Wolf is to me representative of a leader. This is you. This is saying to me, you have a leadership quality. So several messages with that. If you are a born leader, but you don't have the confidence, then chances are, in order to express yourself as a leader, you need to find a more stronger you. In other words, in order for you to embody being a leader, you have to first become leader of you. And if you are attached to things outside of you to define you, you are not a leader of your own life. You are letting life dictate to you what it is that you should do. So that's really, really important. The other message is, where did you go? Where did you go? What did I do with the cards? Well, that's quite bizarre. Okay, there it is. The other part of the message is, some of you may become very rigid in your leadership, in a way that makes you believe that you are right, and it's the only way, and this is the way it's got to go, and you don't listen to anybody else. That is the rigid thinking that I was talking about earlier. So there's several messages with that. Many of you need to step into being a leader, and leader is not just being a leader to outside. It is about being leader of your own life, taking lead of your life, not letting things happen to you, creating life happening to you, or letting life come to you versus life doing things for you. I think you know what I'm trying to get. Power. A lot of it is around inner power or lack of. For many of you, this is around finances. Some of you need to become more conservative with spending, and some of you need to learn how to better manage your money. So that's another message here. I'm seeing the number 7. That's obviously July. 7 to me is enlightenment. It's a very spiritual number. So I feel one of the messages is that many of you are going through a spiritual reconstructing, and you are aware of it. I find that when we are aware of what's happening, sometimes they can make it a little bit difficult. I don't know why. I would have to think about that. But so what am I trying to say here? I think that's all I wanted to say. I also want to say this. You are responsible for your own happiness, and only you can ensure that happens. Now, other people will help you. Money helps you. Absolutely. There's many things that come into play, but fundamentally speaking, feeling happiness has to come from within us, at least to some degree, in order to start attracting that inside. And I think that's all I'm going to say on that, because I feel like I could go on a tangent. I hope this was meaningful to you. I hope it makes sense to you on some level. If you want to comment, I would love to see how that applies to you. There is nothing bad here. There's nothing ever bad. It's either comfortable or uncomfortable. There's nothing bad. It's actually, this is a joyous time for many of you. You may not feel it that way, but I can promise you that in years to come, you look at this time in your life and you're going to say, wow, with amazement, because you will have come so far. And when you're in the middle of it, you can't see it and you want to get out of it as fast as you can. So I get it. Okay. That's all I'm going to say. If you would like to connect with me on one-on-one personal session, that information is down below. I wish you best of luck. Take care of yourself and see you soon.